Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Meshery Build and Release call. This call takes place every second and fourth week, every second and fourth week Thursdays. So, yeah, today is the last Thursday of the month. So, here we are. And I've shared the link to the meeting minutes in the chat. So, you can go there, write your name. If you have an agenda item, please write your agenda item over there. And uh, let's get rolling with the items. There are a few folks missing who had uh, who wanted to get few of the items assigned, but I think as they come in, I'll go over some of that stuff. So Ayush, I think we can move your item to the top so that uh, so that I don't have to go over a few of the things again. I can wait for other folks to join. And before even that, Ayush, I think this is your first time on the call, right? Your audio isn't coming through if you're in case you're speaking. Uh, I think, yeah, there might be some problem with your audio, and since you have an item here, you might have to fix that. So I'll put your item after after my first item. So you you can rejoin. Maybe that will solve the audio issue. Yeah, it's still not coming through. Okay, uh, let's. Okay, yeah. We can hear you now. Is
Am I
this your first?
audible?
You're audible now. Is this your first time in the call?
Yeah, this is my first time.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hi everyone. I'm Ayush from India. I'm currently an engineering student in my third semester. So I have been in the Meshery community for 3 to 4 weeks now and have some of PRs merged. So I started contributing to open source like from last year's Hacktoberfest. And since I've contributed to many different repos, searching for an ideal organization where I can really stay for long and grow. And now I finally found it in Meshery, I believe. I'm mainly interested in contributing to the Golang and DevOps area. So
Uh,
that's all about me and looking forward to an amazing journey with the community.
Okay, that was a nice introduction, Ayush. And by the way, a lot of items that I would go through later in this call actually require. So the bullet points that you see in my items, they actually require their action items. So you might put your name on those items as I talk about them and create a. So all of these are actual action items. There are some bugs over in the adapters. Sometimes it's inside of the test, sometimes it's inside of Golang code. So and I know exactly where the bug is. So you can go and fix that, and as you're doing that, you can get familiar with the adapters code and how the whole architecture works, and that might help you. And I'll go over those items later. Since you've already started talking, would like to talk about your item first? You would like to share your screen?
Yeah, sure. So I think my screen is visible now.
Yeah.
So this is my first item, which was this was discussed in the previous build call, which was to externalize the config.go file. So I have done the changes here, as you can see, and the Meshery Kuma tests are passing, but the adapter tests are failing here. So and
Hmm.
when I see through the all the jobs, I think this is the part like the invalid workload of type Kuma mesh. Due to this, the adapter test is failing probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, I kind of know like there are other adapters also who have the similar problem, and in most cases, in a lot of cases, this is some problem with how. So, for example, in one of the adapters, the issue comes where the version that you see over here is not prefixed with V, and adapters when adapters have a component named Kuma Mesh, it has V 1.5. I'm not sure that this is the reason over here. I'll have to see, but yeah, this is this same kind of invalid workload of type Kuma mesh, Linkerd mesh, and I guess cilium mesh. So that's you might be able to fix some of those. And I don't think I did find it in Kuma, but okay. So one quick one quick way to debug this thing is, for future reference, I'm telling you. So on the pattern apply command, you can see that what version of Kuma mesh it tried to deploy, right? So you can see it was 1.5.4. Now, if you go back to the repo, try to find this version. So it was 154. And if you go back to the mesh Kuma repo, if you go inside of templates and inside of mesh model components, do you see that version over here?
No, it's not here.
Okay, so can you see that traits directory over there? I think that I had created an issue about that. Yeah, the last
Yeah, I
directory.
have deleted that actually.
Okay, so yeah, so maybe okay, so as I can see, there is 150, 151, and 152 is not there as well. So there are some versions missing over here, and because that version is not here, that's where the error is coming from. Removing the version, and we cannot remove the version because we test on the latest version. But can you file an issue regarding this? And I'll come back around of this particular item, and then I'll tell you how to fix it, or we can, because the same similar kind of bug is present in other adapters as well, and there I have pinpointed where the issue is. I didn't I did not do it for Kuma, but as you can see, the versions don't match. So I think the same, there is some versioning thing that is needed to be done. And while I'll share my screen, I'll tell you where this discrepancy might come from. There is inside of that step where you saw 1.5.4, that version is actually sourced from, if you go inside of .github directory, .github/workflows, inside of adapters, you'll find here they are inside of .github workflows, the e2e tests.yaml. Yeah. So if you scroll down, it's in set pattern file. Yeah, here you can see get wait. On line number 32, yeah, on line 36 actually, you can see that it looks at the Kuma HQ slash inside of Kuma HQ org. It goes to the Kuma repo, and it finds the latest version that's present over there. So this is where the workflow finds the latest version, and this should actually match with the place, the Golang code that we have in the adapter that finds the latest version, so that they are pointing to the same repos, and they're basically, so that the version, there is no version mismatch. Now inside of the Golang code, to find this particular thing, like here the repository is Kuma HQ/Kuma. If you go inside of build directory in the root, if you go in mesh Kuma, and you go in the build directory and config.go and go to the init function at the bottom, you'll find that yep. So here line 56, you can see it uses the get latest release tag sorted method to get the latest version from Kuma HQ and Kuma. So this matches. So because this matches, so it means that we are pointing to the correct thing, but somehow the older versions or the newer, so somehow the versions for the latest one are not present. So the exact reason for this, again, I haven't debugged for Kuma, I have debugged for other adapters, so I'll get back to it. Meanwhile, it'll be good if you, after you stop screen sharing, you can create an issue and assign yourself. And then we can maybe you try to debug it yourself after I go over where the problems, where the discrepancy is in the other adapters. Maybe that will give you an idea of how to start debugging these things. So yeah, that's not your issue. That's an issue with us. So can you go back to your PR?
Yeah,
Can you go to files changed in your PR? Okay, so there is, can you scroll? Can you go to the mesh model data.json file? Yeah. So, okay. So yeah, this is what I was looking for. So you have changed it to hyphenated primary hyphen color and secondary hyphen color. That's fine. Can you scroll to the SVG color? Yeah. So here, okay, it's SVG underscore color. Okay. So recently there was a change that was made, and that was so recent that you couldn't have possibly gotten to that thing. Can you go to the integration spreadsheet? Do you have the link, or should I give you, like, should I paste it in chat?
no, I don't have that link.
Okay, I'm giving you the link for the integration spreadsheet. This is the spreadsheet from where everything is sourced. So yeah, if you can open this link. this is, you can think of this as the source of truth uh, for everything related to mesh model components. So here you can see that the column names over here correspond directly to the keys inside of the JSON, right? So here you can see, if you scroll a bit to the right, you can see the SVG color and SVG wide are actually camel cased over here. A little bit to the right, you'll go on the, I guess, on the L column, L, I guess, yeah, not L actually, yeah, L. So on L and M column, you can see these are camel cased, and in your PR it is underscored. At other places as well, it's like either underscored or it's capital letters, so it's not, there is discrepancy, right? So it would be nice if you could just reflect this particular change, this camel casing change inside of the keys as well. So it shouldn't be svg underscore color, it should be whatever is present over here.
Okay. So, like, just to recap, what are the issues I have to file? Like, one is change change the SVG color to the camel case, and the other issue you said like to
The first one, the first one is not an issue. The first one is more like you can make change that you can make that change in your PR itself. You can change the name of those keys. So yeah, here on line 6, you can see the key names that you have put as svg underscore color, just change them to camel cased.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, and this the issue that you I want you to file is that missing versions for mesh model components. Just have that as a name. Missing versions for mesh model components in Fuma, because as we saw that there was no version directory for 1.5.4. So we need to, yeah, so we need to go there and look where the issue was. And just to tell you how those version directories are created, there is a in Meshery adapters, all of the adapters, when you start the adapter, it goes and looks up for the latest version of that service mesh. And if we already have components for that latest version, so if there is already a directory with that, like if the latest version of that service mesh is 1.5.4 and we already have that directory, then we do not generate the components. Otherwise, we create that new directory of that version, and then we generate components for that version. So somewhere down the lines, the workflow ran and it did not generate the components for 1.5.4, due to which inside of the workflow, you can see when you specified the version as 1.5.4, the error log came as invalid workload of type this. Although even that message is not very descriptive, so we need to change that as well. So that's like the second issue you can file. I'll, you know what, I'll file that second issue so that I can put something in the description as well. Can you go back to the message where it said invalid workload of type linker mesh? So like even while you were debugging this thing, it wasn't very helpful,
Mm.
that message. So yeah, we need to change that message as well. Anyways, yeah, so yeah, all the jobs are failing over here. Yeah. So here it only says invalid workload of type Kuma mesh. It actually has Kuma mesh, but not for that version. So this error should be more descriptive, like Kuma mesh is this particular workload is not present for version 1.5.4, and I'll file that. I'll file that, and I'll whenever I'll create the pull request, I'll tag you so that you can review that. Okay, moving on. I think other than that lower casing, other than that camel casing, your pull request looks good to me. So once you make that change, ask me for a review again. That pull request is good to go. Have you made sure that that same change is? And also, as you do that, please make sure that that same change, that camel casing, actually it's not there in other adapters, so I'm telling you to make that change as well. So if you can just create a quick pull request across all the adapters, just making that change, it's just updating the key names. And while you're doing that, just make sure that the build directory has the same JSON file, and basically there is a uniformity everywhere. So if you find any discrepancy that here the key is something else and the key is something else, you can ping me or anyone in the Meshery adapters channel or Meshery CI channel.
Yeah, okay, okay. So like I need to change those keys across all across all the repos for all the adapters.
Yeah, for all the adapters, yeah,
Yeah.
and change them to the one given in the spreadsheet column. So we need to, yeah, we need to maintain the uniformity there. Right now, we do not have a workflow. Ideally, what we would want is, instead of having that JSON file, can you go to the JSON for context? Instead of having that mesh model data or JSON that you had added, instead of having that, what we ideally want is to not, to not manually have that there, to create a workflow that goes to the integration spreadsheet and looks up some fields and create a JSON for a particular uh, service mesh. So if you'll scroll down, you'll find a model name, Istio, and for Istio we need to do those things. So yeah, that is a task for, let's say, another call. So I won't go over that. You can go to your next item now.
Yeah, so like I was saying that I can take up on this, like you've also discussed this in previous call of creating a workflow
Hmm.
to update this JSON to like update the JSON components from this spreadsheet.
Hmm.
Like I have little experience with GitHub Actions, but it will take some time and help from the community to solve it. So if no
Yeah.
one's doing it right now, I can take up on this.
Yeah, that's actually, yeah, that's good. So you can create an issue and assign it yourself, and uh, you can describe some part of it in the issue, and I'll fill some of it which I find is missing. The ask is pretty simple, like the columns over here, primary color. Say you don't need to have a generate a JSON with all of the. So basically, the ask is that for Istio adapter, let's say, come over here inside of the spreadsheet, go to a model name, let's say Istio, and for that model name extract some selected fields which in our case is primary color, secondary color, logo URL, SVG color, and SVG white, and shape as well, and select these five fields, create a JSON out of it, and push it inside of that adapter. So that's the ask. You can describe it in your own words inside an issue, and and yeah, try to make it as general as possible so that basically there is nothing being hard coded there, and that can be propagated across all the adapters, because usually when we need a change in one adapter, that needs to be that needs to take place in other adapters as well. So yeah, you can take your time, maybe a week, 2 week, how by the next call, maybe, because this call takes place every other week, so by the next call maybe we have some progress over there. So it's not an urgent item, but yeah, it would be nice if you took it up. And this particular, and for reference, there is another workflow inside of, so there is actually inside of Meshery, you'll find a scripts directory, and there are two directories: component generation and component updation. Which actually, the component updation is the one which scrapes this particular. I'll provide the link and a bit more
Yeah, okay.
context, and then you can work on it. So you have to create two issues. One for the second one is what we just discussed, and the first one was regarding the what was it regarding? Even I forgot.
Camel case lettuce.
No, that camel casing you need to do in
And
your
the version file was not present.
yeah, the version, exactly. Yeah, the version is not present. So two issues and one change. You already have a lot in your hands.
Yeah, so like now moving on to my second issue. So this was also like discussed in the last call to improve the debugs log for the pattern apply command.
Hmm.
So I have made some changes to this file, but I believe I need more. Currently the Golang CI lint tests are failing, but I will fix this. So this is open to review, like if you can give any suggestions here.
Okay, so are these mesh kit errors?
No, this is for I think these are for the pattern apply command.
Yeah, okay. Actually, inside of like, um, okay, I'll give it a review. So can you describe the change? Summarize, like, is it like the by improving? Okay, this is the first time actually seeing this PR on the call, so I might not have a lot of context, but from
No,
what I
I
can
just
see,
created this PR like 1 hour ago only. So
okay. Okay, so after you pass this lint test, ask me for review, or ask other folks, the Meshy CTL maintainers and other folks for review as well, and I'll drop my suggestions over there.
okay. So I
Okay.
think that was my item. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ayush. Okay, so moving on, just give me a second. I'll take a water break real quick. So the next item is from me, which is there is a recurring agenda item that we have, which is to show the Meshery test plan and what it is, and uh, what's the progress over there. And related to that test plan, we have these other subtasks created from that test plan. And Hamza, if you're here, the Linkerd problem has been identified. So I'll be talking about what's the issue over there. And I don't know if Ayush already has a lot on his plate. So I think he shouldn't have all the tasks. So there would be some tasks coming from these particular issues. So maybe someone else wants to take up some Golang tasks. They can raise their hands or unmute their mic and ask for assignment. And as I'm taking this short break, I think I see a new name over here, or maybe it's my poor memory. So Siddesh, is it your first time in the call, in the CI call?
Yeah, it's not actually my first time, but I'm not regular in these calls because they are pretty late in my time. Sorry.
Like, you don't need to be sorry. It's fine.
No, sorry to interrupt, but like I am working on that, Nginx SM adapter externalizing the config file. So I'm already up on that.
Okay, okay. Uh, add a name over here in the meeting minutes. Add your names in front of the item if you're already working on that. Thank you, Ayush. Okay, so we have a test plan. This is the Meshery test plan, and there are two spreadsheets over here. The third one is the backup spreadsheet. So essentially, there are only two. And the first spreadsheet is this is a basically this is a matrix of all the permutations and combinations of tests that we run. There are different end-to-end tests, and then there are unit tests, integration tests, and some like user-facing tests. For example, someone tries to install Meshery using this thing, and this should be the expected outcome. So as discussed in every call, this is so if you're playing around with Meshery, you can always like I'll put the link in the over here so that you can go over to the test plan and you can see what I'm seeing. So if you're playing around with Meshery or any of the Meshery's components, you can have this test plan opened and look what's the expected outcome and what's the action, so that whatever you are doing is like if you get an error, is that an expected error, or have we drifted off from the spreadsheet? Was something else written over here, which is currently not the case. Currently, the behavior is somewhat different. So you can use it as a tally. So this is a helpful, handy spreadsheet for anyone who's contributing to either something CI related or even non-CI related things, because a lot of these tests are user facing. So and this second spreadsheet over here, this is a tracking spreadsheet because we have a whole lot of workflows spread across all the repos. So if you want to get a hold of what are the tests that we run, what are the purpose of different workflows, instead of going to each of the workflow, but you can do that. You can go to each of the repos and see what the tests are and how they are run. But you can come over here and you can see that okay, this test does this, it runs on these are the triggers, and this is the prerequisite, and this is the area under test or area under build if this is not a test but rather a build. And one thing that I'll be discussing next is the E2E. So here you can see that all of the adapters are kind of packaged into one column. The reason for that is the workflows that we have across the adapters are all uniform, are all the same. So functionality wise, the specifics might differ adapter to adapter, but what stays the same is the way in which tests run. So in an end-to-end test, if you're testing your Istio adapter, you might deploy an Istio mesh, and if you're using like if you're in the Linkerd adapter, you might deploy Linkerd mesh, but the base underlying mechanism stays the same. And not just for end-to-end tests, the lint test, build test, and everything should be exactly the same. And sometimes there are discrepancies, and there are some folks who have actually created pull requests. And I think if those folks are here, you can add your item in the meeting minutes, because I did see some pull requests have like creating this uniformized like creating this uniformity across some of the adapters. So some of the adapters were drifting off of the basic structure that we have, and as a reference, you can always use the Istio adapter, which is to say that inside of like .github you have this particular structure, and inside of workflows, these set of workflows we have, they should be almost the same. Like a PR was created over here to match the Linkerd adapter. So in some cases, Linkerd adapter and Istio adapter had drifted off in how the workflow is structured. So that's why inside of the test plan, all of that is put into one particular row. So Coming to the E2E test, there are failing E2E tests, and the way to know that something is failing is to we have a compatibility matrix. I'll put the link inside of in the chat so that everyone can see it. This compatibility matrix basically out shows the results of what's being run and when it is being run and so on and so forth. So so basically, I just wait a second. Yeah, this compatibility matrix reminded me of one issue, and again, someone can take this up. So, for example, on the H channel, you can see. So there are two channels over here. We publish results on both H channel and stable channel. H channel is whenever a pull request is merged. So whatever is on the upstream, that is considered an H channel. There's a Docker image that is built on that channel, and the stable channel is whenever a release is made. So that's stable and that's H. So one issue is that on both of these channels, you can see that you have the some of these things are red, which means that tests are failing. And I'm going to discuss some of the reasons those tests are failing and how you might be able to fix those. How some of you might be able to take some of these issues and fix those tests. But before I go over there, I think one quick issue that I would cover is inside of the stable channel, you can find the cilium over here. But if I go over to the H channel, the cilium is not present, and the cilium is a cilium adapter is missing because if I go over to the like Istio, this is the workflow, by the way. I'll post the link in the chat. This is the workflow that does this is the workflow that runs those end-to-end tests. So there are three jobs over here. This one, as we discussed with Ayush before, creates that particular Meshery pattern file or Meshery design file, which is used to run the tests. And then you have this particular job which actually runs those tests, and then you have the third job which updates the documentations, which is basically this. And over here okay, so the triggers are different. So here you can see on istio adapter, this is triggered on pull request as well as release as well as push on the on any of the branches. So if you push on master, this is triggered. But in cilium, that third trigger is the first trigger is absent, which is to say it is not triggered when a pull request is merged. So there is a discrepancy over here and here. So the change is literally just adding this trigger. So I have added this cilium workflow changes. If you got what the change was, which is to say to add this pull request trigger inside of E2E test.yaml inside of cilium, not pull request, the push trigger inside of cilium. So basically, you have to match whatever trigger we have for the Istio E2E test workflow. That should match what we have over here in the cilium E2E test. So if you want to take this up, just put your name. I'll create an empty box. Cilium workflow changes, which is to say update uh, E2E test, E2E workflow trigger to add push. So that's pretty descriptive, and it's so small that I think if someone directly picks it up, then okay, Hamza, will you write your name in the box so that I'm reminded to by at the end of the call I'll go and create the issue and I'll assign it to you. If you can just write your
Yeah,
name over.
for some reason, I could not access the link in the calendar, the link to the meeting minutes. So
Are
maybe
you
it's
still not
blocked.
able to do that? Are you logged in as the are you logged in with the account that you signed the newcomers form and you filled the newcomers form with, or like is because you know your account gets permission after you fill the newcomers form. So maybe you are signed in as a different account. That might be one of the issues. Anyways, I'll have added your name, so I'll create the issue and I'll assign it to you. Okay, so that was about cilium. But there is one issue that Hamza was facing. He has a PR up. So let me go over to his PR in Linkerd adapter. So I guess it's this one. And yeah, we have these failing E2E tests. And if we go into pattern apply, it says, okay, this is the first one. Second one, it says invalid workload of type Linkerd mesh. So as I said, Ayush, while I was talking to Ayush as well, that This error is quite non-descriptive, and the first culprit is always the version, because namespace and the other stuff is kind of standard. So here's what the issue is. Let me open the let me describe it so that if anyone wants to take this up. There is a versioning issue, and I'll point to where the versioning issue is exactly. So this is the source code for Meshery Linkerd adapter. And as you can see over here, it tries to deploy Linkerd on it tries to deploy Linkerd with edge hyphen 23.1.1. So it tries to deploy Linkerd from this version. And if I come again with the same kind of debugging process that I followed while I was talking to Ayush, the same thing I'll do over here. I'll come to templates and I'll check whether the version edge hyphen 23.1.1 is present or not. And when I come over here, I find that it's actually absent. So that version is not present. So uh, of course, if we don't have the component for that version and we try to create, let's say, this kind of looks cryptic, but you don't have to care about this right now. Meshery has a feature of having designs inside of designs inside of design. So you can import. So this is a link URL to another design, which does something, a task X, and that task is basically to deploy a Linkerd service mesh, and it exposes some of the variables which you can configure from here. And one of the variables is the Linkerd version. So that's what it is. And so the version is missing. And if you want to know where these directories are being created, always look inside of this code is isolated inside of build/config.go in all of the adapters. And here you'll find the configuration that is used to build the actual data which is inside of these JSON files, but that's not the thing we are looking for right now. What we're looking for right now is the version, right? So the version is missing, and you can see that get latest release names. Here is where it actually, so this is where it actually gets the versions. And in other adapters, you'll find that we are using a different method. We are using a actually this method was being used, I guess, prior to we migrated to mesh models. And this method is outdated in the sense that you can, like, if you go inside of here, you'll find the logic, and the logic says that get latest release names returns the name of latest releases limited by the limit parameter. The first version in the list is always the latest stable version. So it kind of has this function has a bias for stable versions. So as I said, when your adapter starts, it goes and looks up what's the latest version for that particular service mesh. If I do not already have that component, if I do not already have a directory with that particular name, it means that I'm missing components, and I'll generate one. But in this case, as you can see, the latest version is when actually I sort those. There is a function inside of a utils package inside of meshmap, which is get latest. Yeah, this is the one. And this function should be used actually. And what this function is doing, it makes sure that the first element in that array, so this function returns an array of versions, and it makes sure that the first version in that array is a stable. So of course, if they have an edge release, if the Linkerd adapter has a new version for edge, uh, that might be present in the array, but it'll never be the first version. And because it will not be the first version, it'll see something like, okay, do you have, so it'll be something like stable, let's say stable 2.1, 2.3, and it'll find out that I already have that component, so I don't need to generate. So basically what it means is, in summary, that we are not generating for edge, which we should, because, and we should not use this function, which is an outdated function. For reference again, as I say, that always go to the istio adapter, because somehow that is the most well-maintained adapter. So if you go inside of build directory, if you'll go inside of the same config.go file that I am inside of the Linkerd adapter as well, you'll find that we are actually using, this function. This function is present in Meshkit. Meshkit is a central repository that we use for tools that are kind of ubiquitous across all the Meshery repos, be it adapter library, be it any of the adapters, be it Meshery server, sometimes Meshery CTL. So those tools are present inside of Meshkit, and this is one of those tools. All this tool does is it goes to this particular repository, istio/istio, GitHub repository, of course, and it finds the latest version, it sorts them, and then it returns all the version. And here you can see that after sorting some n number of versions that we get, what I basically do is I get the last version, because they're sorted in order, and inside of it makes sure that they're sorted properly. Even if the versions are pretty wonky, if some version is missing the v, some versions have the v, so it sorts them accordingly, and then this latest version variable is basically it is basically uh, the last version from that array is put into the latest version. So this is like, it's like a copy paste of this particular snippet of code, but instead of istio, uh, it would be it would be linkerd, yeah, it would be linkerd2. So we don't want to use these older functions, and when we move to the new functions, we would be having the um, uh, basically version, we would be having a new directory over here. And a quick way to confirm that you have made the correct changes, after you'll make the change and you'll run the adapter uh, using debug equals true go run my main.go, a new directory will be created over here. And then you can create a pull request, you can merge your PR, and then the test would be passing, because we will have the latest edge repos for test to pass. We'll have the latest edge directories, edge version directories. And just to give you a little bit of context, what these directories actually have, these JSON files. So if you have some experience with Kubernetes, you might have seen Kubernetes has custom resource definitions, and then you have custom resources. So there's a way to define your resources inside of the system, and then at the time of deployment, you use custom resource to deploy it. So inside of the workflow, we deploy the linkerd mesh. Inside of these directory, we define the linkerd mesh. So in this JSON file, if I'll format it properly, you can see that this is kind of the definition file. So this is how Meshery knows what it means for me to like have something like a linkerd mesh. And this kind is what is passed inside of that particular. If I go back to that particular failing test, you can see this invalid workload of type linkerd mesh, and this corresponds directly to this definition. So it's just like saying you don't have, like, if you don't have a CRD in Kubernetes of, let's say, some particular kind in API version, and you try to deploy that custom resource, it will throw an error that I don't understand what that resource is. The similar pattern is over here. So what it means is, right now we don't have the definition, I won't say CRD, the definition, the mesh model definition. Here we the correct terminology is mesh models. So we don't have the particular mesh model definition for that version. So if I was able to convey the issue properly, and if someone wants to take this up, put your name in front of this particular task. I'll create a box. If by the end of the call no one has put their name, I'll assume that uh, okay, I'll assume that I'll do it myself, or I'll assign it to someone else. Okay, Hamza has raised his hand again, so uh, Hamza already has one, so I'll go around the room. I'll come back to this thing at the end of the call if someone wants to take this up. Otherwise, Hamza can take this up. So this was the issue in the linkerd adapter. Okay, Alberto has raised his hand. So Alberto, I'm writing a name over here. If you have any issue, if you have any other doubts regarding this, you can always ask in the Slack channel. I'll be happy to. Yeah. Okay. So that was the problem in linkerd adapter. Now moving on to the same test of failing in the Nginx adapter as well. And as I said, the problem is again with the versioning. So these problems weren't there before mesh model migration. What I mean by mesh model migration is that the backend that we have, previously we were using completely different pattern of storing stuff, and it was completely different. And now we have this whole the JSON files that I just showed you, that format has changed. So if you go into each of the adapters, inside of templates, you'll find two directories. One is OM and one is mesh model. This OM is no longer in use. Literally, you can delete this thing and it won't, it won't affect anything. But right now, just for the sake of backwards compatibility, so for previously running Meshery server instances, because Meshery adapter talks to Meshery server, so all these definition files that you see over here, these are sent to Meshery over HTTP, and just like so basically this is a way for these adapters to tell Meshery that hey, if someone tries to deploy linkerd mesh, I know what it means, send that thing over to me and I'll handle it. So yeah, so that's how the flow works. And previously it was registering the OM definitions. We used to use OM format, which is open application model. You can go and, but their use case kind of did not fit what we were trying to do. So we created our own specification, which is the mesh model specification. And now the JSON formats are different. It completely fits what our use case is right now. So that was a little context on what these mesh model components and what these OM thing are. And with OM, we were a lot less strict. So because of that, workflows used to pass. So even if you don't have version for that component and all, workflows used to pass. But now with mesh model, things are pretty much strict. So if you don't have the correct version, the workflows fail. So yeah, going back to the second item, which is about the Nginx adapter. So I'll again go over to the code to explain what the issue is. And again, the culprit is the version. So the issue over here is, so if you go inside of the workflow in the E2E test, the repository is nginx inc nginx inc / nginx service mesh. But if you go into the config.go file, where we have the configuration and the initialization routine that fills up a bunch of stuff, here you can see the default, inside of the default URL, you can see the repo is nginx inc / helm charts. So again, pointing to two different directories, which basically means that while generating these components, when we perform a lookup in what is the latest version, we go to, like, here you can see the repo, like we're using a completely different method. So the ask would be to just like in linked adapter, I said use the utils dot get latest version sorted, whatever that method was. It's there in the history adapter. Use basically, instead of using this get latest version function, whatever we have, and doing this, like this is a git walker that we have inside of meshkit, which basically goes inside of nginx and helm charts and then walks the tree and finds the it's a very roundabout way of finding the version. And now we have a standard way. So just this is a reductive change, so to speak, which is we need to remove this thing and use the utils dot get this thing. And the basically the two parameters over here are, one is the org name and the second one is the actual repo name. And to find these two things, you can go over to the e2e test.yaml and just use these. So in the repository, this is nginx inc / nginx -service mesh. So yeah, so literally you have to change it to this and then use other repositories as reference to populate the default generation URL. So yeah, put your name in front of the, okay, I guess Ayush already got to it before I could ask for a call out. So thanks, Ayush. So yeah, so that was the reason for failing tests across these adapters. Ayush also pointed out the issue with Kuma, and as Ayush goes to create that particular issue which I talked about, I guess I'll assign that to myself, and yeah, so yeah, so moving to the next item, which is yeah, okay, again, this is also an item where a propagative change is required. A propagative change is a change where again there's a call out. So I'll go, this change is pretty quick, pretty straightforward, I would say. It's not very code specific as well. It's a configuration change. I'll go over what the change is, and I'll give a little bit of context as well, what the change is and what SMP is, and so that you have some idea and you're not. So I open Meshery source code. So over here in the history adapter, yeah. So if I go to the mesh model components, I'll find that, okay, so inside of model, we have a name and we have a display name. Okay. And if I go back to my integration spreadsheet, we have a model display name and we have a model, right? So that name corresponds to the model field and the display name corresponds to the model display name, which would be changed to model display name, the camel case thing, as Ayush works on that particular issue. And yeah, so so over here, just to what the ask is that we want to change the display name and the name. So the display name is if you're using Meshery configurator or using let's say I'll open playground, Meshery's playground, just to quickly like give you an idea of how those components are shown to the users, so that there are still some changes going on in the playground, so it's not like completely out to the public. But yeah, as we so instead of components, you can yeah, over here you can see that we have some core components and we have some Kubernetes components, right? So these they correspond to the display name. So here the display name would have been API space service. So these display name is what would be showed to the user. So we don't want to show them a lowercase istio. It would be more like so basically this field should correspond to what in the integration spreadsheet we have on the model display name. And if you'll scroll all the way to the where is istio, I guess. Yep, it is over here. So this is the model display name for Istio, which is capital I followed by STIO. And this should be again as like when Ayush will work on your workflow, which automates some of this. Again, this would be one of those things that we would be looking to automate as well. That which currently is kind of hard coded. So basically, the ask is that this name, the display name should be changed to capital ISTIO, corresponding to the model display name field, and the name field, which is right now just small ISTIO, it should be changed. It should also be changed, not only over here, but also in the spreadsheet. So it should be changed to capital I, capital S, capital. Now, why the capitalization? I'll tell you why. So we have there is an SMP spec, and what SMP spec does is it defines it has some some enums for the over here you can see when we generate the configuration for generating those JSON files. So JSON files themselves are configuration, but this is the configuration to generate the configuration. And you don't have to look at all this. This won't make sense right now, but over here in the name, whatever is passed over here, that is exactly that's what we use inside of as I told you that we have OM as well as mesh model. So if you'll go inside of OM workloads and if you'll open any of the definition, you'll find the mesh name. The mesh name is capital I, capital S TIO, and the reason mesh name is that is because the if we'll go inside of here and this is inside of the service mesh performance repository. There's a spec which defines the any service mesh which is added to this SMP, basically which which follows this. I won't go over the whole SMP spec. I'm already running out of time. So so this thing is basically it uses the predefined enums, and so the name over here is capitalized, but it's only inside of OM. The previous components that we generated. In the newer ones, it's you can see the name is small. This is on me because this requires a little bit of understanding of what mesh model is and what OM is. I was just going over what the changes, and I'll definitely tag Ayush, because Ayush, I guess when you'll create the workflow that you were talking about, you would need to automate this as well. That the display name should be directly sourced from there. The name would be directly sourced from here. So the name would be the SMP. The name would be what is defined in the SMP spec, and the display name is what's defined over here. And this particular column, like this, also needs to be changed to what's already in the SMP spec. So there are multiple ways to go about it, but we want this particular spreadsheet to be the source of truth in most cases. So yep. So that was the change that was required, and the last one was about changing Cilium workflow to make sure it runs on edge release. And I don't think someone okay, so Hamza already okay. So this is a repeated task. I'll put Hamza's name over here. So almost all items have Okay, this one is assigned to me. So, and this to Ayush. Alberto has got Linkerd adapter. And yeah, if anyone has any questions regarding any of the stuff I said, if you have any doubts, we still have like 7 minutes to for the call to wrap up. So this is the time you can ask any question. If you, in whatever I said, if my speed was too fast, if I um, if I actually okay, one thing that I just noticed is that none of you have written your, except for me and Ayush, none of you have written your name in the attendees list. So I'll do it for Hamza, but I guess if you have the access to the docs, please write your name here as well, so that it reflects that you guys were here, and some of the folks joined later. So I'll paste the link in the chat again, so you don't have to go and find for this. Okay, I've pasted the link in the chat. Please add a name so here. And I guess Abhishek joined later. Abhishek, is it your first time in the CI call?
Yes, so it's my first time and I want to contribute. Now, I contributed to layer5.io during the Hacktoberfest in the UI and front end part, but I'm also learning Docker and the similar stuff to contribute to Meshery.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
it's first time.
Okay. So
Can you please guide me?
have you worked on anything Golang related previously?
No, sir, I'm just learning that.
Okay. Okay. So in all of these action items, what's your GitHub? By the way, what's your GitHub handle?
Abhishek Tiwari 23.
Okay.
Let
Okay.
me.
So okay, you can drop that in the chat. I'll tag you whenever these pull requests are created. I'll tag you for a review. So before you actually create your own, actually there would be an ask. So stick around inside of the Slack channel, inside of the GitHub issues that would be subsequently created. And a lot of these changes are like propagatory changes, which is to say when we make change in one adapter, a similar change is required in other adapters as well. So that's always a good starting point for new contributors to take that issue, and then as you contribute to the adapter, because most of the times those changes do not require you to make, like, you won't break anything, because it's like a kind of a uniform change. What's here has to be there as well, and it'll allow you to go through the code to understand how the code is working and all. So right now I guess everyone has their names to most of the tasks. So but yeah, you'll definitely find before the end of the week something on your hand, something workflow related or Golang related. So thank you, Abhishek. Okay, any questions? Does anyone have any other questions related to any of the tasks that I just talked about, or any of the things that I just explained? If you have any questions regarding doubts regarding what your task is, you can ask it right now. Or if the call ends if the call ends before you can kind of conceptualize your question, you can always ask on Slack. So yeah. So I'll wait for like 15 more seconds if anyone else has any questions, and then I'll wrap up
Hey,
the.
So I have a question
Yeah.
regarding the workflow. Like, can you just give me an overview of of creating that workflow? Like, I will have to take like for each adapter version, I will have to create a workflow. So like, I will start with the one adapter, and then take its model name from the that spreadsheet
Let's.
value and create a
Mhm.
.json file having all those keys value pairs.
You know what, like let's take this on the GitHub issue, so that we have these things written down somewhere, because vocalizing these things might not stick. Writing this thing in an issue would stick. So create an issue, tag me there, and I'll expand upon that. And if you have any doubts, then we can discuss on there.
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
I guess someone else also unmuted their mic.
yeah, it was me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I had a question regarding one of the messages on the Slack that you like answer me, regarding the ARM
Yeah.
enablement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you told me that it's probably because of a missing library. So you mean missing, I mean, a library missing from the GC live image,
Yeah.
or? All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I found another repository that I can like fork on, because basically the image that I generated, I like look inside the glibc like code, and even I mean the APK package. It's even there is in some part that's even explicitly specifying the architecture, right? So I found another another fork of that, and yeah, I'll try to investigate more. And just thank you for clarifying that.
What was your GitHub handle, by the way, so that I can pull up that pull request?
L Olvera, L-O, like low. The E and the A like backwards. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, without the first A that you wrote there. Yeah.
Is it this?
No, the letter before that, that E, like the A, just erase that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
That one.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
going to check it. I believe is this.
Okay.
Yeah,
Have you
check
tried
this.
all the combinations of vowels and consonants to reach? Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So you were saying that you were having, so the last checkpoint that you have is where that particular message that you got, that binary is missing, right? That was the last checkpoint in your.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's most, yeah, it's when last time when I was working on this particular thing, when this particular thing was put on like a hold, I was in basically researching on like I tried about a whole bunch of different dependencies. I try to install a lot of those dependencies, but a lot of time it is just the Cgo, underlying Cgo that we use, which wasn't allowing, because Cgo has a bunch of dependencies, so it needs a lot of but just importing the GCC is also doesn't solve the problem, because there is something else also that's missing. So if you get around to that, if you find the particular exact dependencies, then and I think it just might be a like a kind of a test and hit and like randomly testing, because even I'm not aware what the exact particular library is that's missing over there, that is throwing that error. So right.
Cool.
So
And do you have like did you ever created a commit or sorry, a pull request with
yeah,
your
yeah.
experimentation? No?
Yeah. Actually, I did not. Actually, I did not. The reason
Uh,
I did not was like, if you're not aware, like I have a standing pull request, and that pull request was the pull request that you're talking about was not created, because there is another pull request which is migration to Postgres. And the reason with this thing is, when we migrate to Postgres, actually right now we use SQLite. And SQLite uses Cgo, but the Postgres doesn't use Cgo. We use GOM, and GOM uses internal different Go libraries for SQLite and Postgres. So the SQLite library actually uses the C dependencies, and the Postgres doesn't. And because Postgres doesn't, the whole issue was obsolete in the. If you think that if we had migrated onto Postgres, then there would be no issue regarding any of the dependencies and all. But because we are still using Cgo, we have that error. And because this migration was on the way, so around October, around September, that was a time where I had researched. I should have actually put some of these things anywhere, but sadly I didn't, I guess, because I moved on to this, and this is currently on hold because of other issues. So yeah, that's the
right.
history
Yeah.
of.
I understand. All right. So yeah, I'll continue to like investigate that part and see if I can find anything useful.
Okay. I'll just add this as an item that you spoke about it. Okay. Thank you, Alberto. And we are on top of the hour, so we're 3 minutes past. So I guess a lot of you got some action items. A lot of you had the updates. So I'll say bye now, and we meet every second and fourth Thursday of the month. So see you after 2 weeks. Most probably, a lot of these issues, a lot of these pull requests would have been merged by now, and And yeah, let's hope that we have a lot less failing tests. And okay, yeah. Bye
Can
everyone.
you please guide me? What should I do? Yeah, or in task for me?
Uh, let's follow up on the Slack channel, Abhishek.
Yeah.
You have given your GitHub on the.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tag you. I'll tag you in GitHub. Also, you can always ask in the adapters or CI channel. Hey, is there any issue I can be assigned to and all? So let's connect there.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Bye everyone.